and non-members. The NBCC Plaza provides accommodation for the headquarters and acts as an incubator for new businesses in Nigeria. It provides a business center for conferences and training programs for its members and the general public at very friendly rates. Over the years, we have received support from distinguished individuals and top corporate entities. The Chamber has begun the Going Green project. The achievements of the Chamber over the last 1 year would not have been possible without the efforts and commitment of the Executive Committee members, who have collectively piloted the affairs of 10 committees and 7 sectoral groups of the Chamber. Today, we celebrate the launch of 2 sectoral groups, the Creative and Cultural Group and the Technology Group. These groups have made remarkable successes. July 4th, 2022 marked the beginning of the Tech Academy, Cohort 1.1. The Academy has successfully graduated over 30 successful participants in data analytics, product management, and UI/UX design. As Nigeria continues to struggle under the tough economic condition with a need to diversify
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adriana Kajo, and I am the Assistant Director Membership of the NBCC. I am pleased to welcome you virtually to this maiden edition of the NBCC Thought Leadership Program, themed Impact of 5G on the Nigerian Economy. I am particularly delighted to see our Council and ESCO members, our distinguished speaker, Mrs. Onyinye Ikenna-Emeka, the moderator, Ms. Anne Reno, and all our esteemed participants. Please let's rise as we observe the national anthems of Nigeria and Britain. Thank you. Please allow me to state some rules for this event. If your volume is too low, kindly check your system volume and increase it. Then the event is being recorded and will be available live on our YouTube channel at the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, NBCC. To comment and have discussions, please use the chat icon. To submit your questions, please use via the Q&A session. Please do that by pasting on the chat icon. Only these questions will be answered. Thank you for listening. Please join me as we welcome our President and Chairman of Council, Mrs. Bisi Adeyemi, as she gives a welcome address.
Thank you very much, Ejiro. Good morning, members of Council and NESCO on the call, members of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to welcome you to the maiden edition of the Thought Leadership Series with the theme, Impact of 5G on the Nigerian Economy. The idea behind this initiative is actually to have a systematic approach to sharing new ideas and compelling solutions with our members and the general public. The choice of today's theme, which could not have been more timely, is within the context of latest trends in the advancement of technology and born out of the need to bridge the knowledge gap to enable us all take full advantage of the opportunities that the adoption of technology presents. 5G is the fifth generation of wireless technology, which promises to revolutionize the way we live and work. The technology brings faster internet speed, lower latency, and greater capacity, all of which will enable the deployment of new applications and support innovation. Today, we'll be exploring the potential impact of 5G on the Nigerian economy, and we are honored to have MTN Nigeria, the foremost telecommunications company in Nigeria, with us to share insights on 5G technology and its potential impact on the economy. Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa, has a vibrant and tech-savvy population of about 100 million, and a government committed to developing the ICT sector. The deployment of 5G technology in Nigeria is expected to create new opportunities across all sectors of the economy. I'm delighted today to welcome our guest speaker, Mrs. Oyeye Ekena Emeka, General Manager of Fixed Broadband, MTN Nigeria, and our moderator, our very own Ms. Anne Reno, Head Property Nigeria and West Africa, Standard Chartered Bank, and the Chairman of the NDC Advocacy Committee. She has led the Advocacy Committee for the past 2 years, and I thank her and the committee for putting this together. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention, and I trust that we're going to have a pleasurable morning as we listen to our guest speaker. I now hand you over to Ms. Reno. Thank you, and God bless. Ms. Reno, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam President, and good morning, a very good morning and a warm welcome to our virtual audience. My name is Anne Renu, as I have been introduced, and I'm the chair of the Advocacy for the Nigeria-British Chamber of Commerce. And I thank you, President, for acknowledging the good work we're doing. We have a great audience, and we're delighted to introduce our guest speaker and subject matter expert for this morning, Oyeye Ekena Emeka. She is the General Manager for Fixed Broadband at MTN Nigeria. And on behalf of the patrons, president, past presidents, and the council of the Nigeria-British Chamber of Commerce, we're delighted to launch our NBCC Thought Leadership Program. Today's program is titled The Impact of 5G on the Nigerian Economy. And we ask you to sit back, relax, and learn. We're looking forward to an insightful, informative, immersive, and interactive session where we will learn about the opportunities and impact of 5G router technology. In particular, how the value chain, including corporates, public sector, SME businesses, individuals across all sectors of the Nigeria economy can benefit from the 5G offering. In August, I'm sure many of you would recall, in August last year, MTN led the way and recently followed by Airtel. Hence, we saying it's pretty much an apt subject and a hot topic. Launching the 5th generation technology. An enterprise, we understand it as an enterprise use case, high-speed connectivity, currently within 13 Nigerian cities, and Onyinye will tell us more how far they have advanced in this technology. So this morning, we want her to articulate the opportunities for the benefit of those online. It's worth noting that this enabling technology has begun to drive access to high-speed broadband internet, particularly in the streaming world, in the gaming world, in smart home services, and amongst, I'm sure, many other benefits that she will share with us. I'm not going to take up much time, but I would like to encourage that you please post your questions and your comments in our QA chat box, and we'll do our best to take all the comments. And we look forward to you being able to sort of log onto the NBBC website and share additional information where we can interact on this issue. So without further ado, may I please welcome and formally Oh yeah, I need you to unmute, please.
Apologies. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent. So thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Reno, and thank you very much, Madam President. It's really an honor and a privilege for us to be here. Very apt and very, very timely. 5G is the conversation of today. And, you know, because it's a conversation that is technology driven, it does speak to the way we work, the way we learn, and the way, you know, we drive our day-to-day experiences. So we really are delighted to join NBCC in this program, and even more delighted to be a part of the Maiden edition. If I could just speak very briefly about 5G and MTN's journey so far in 5G. Before we go into the deeper conversations. Next slide, please. Deborah, could you please run the slides? Thank you. So very, very briefly, I'm just going to talk to the evolution of the technology, and what 5G means. I'll try as much as possible to bring it home so that it does make some sense to those of us who are here that are not exactly engineers or technology experts. And then finally, we'll look at some of the sample use cases, you know, because 5G is driven more about the use cases that are applicable and the use cases that it enables. So we'll speak to a few of that before we go into the conversations. Next, please. So let's start by looking at the evolution of technology. As we all know, technology has been with us for quite a bit of time. And one thing that we can all attest to is the speed at which it has advanced. So we started out with the 1G. Many of us may or may not remember the earlier or early day type of communication services that we had, which just enabled voice. You know, so it was analog, it was mobile devices, sometimes fixed devices, but basically focused on just voice. That then transited to the 2G technology, where we started seeing some elements of digital communication. And this started to enable things like text messaging and some early level data transmission on GPRS and all of that. And then we moved to the 3G. Now, 3G signified the very first major step into mobile data and internet access availability. It brought mobile data to the forefront, you know, allowing users to access the internet, to send emails, to download files, download apps, and of course, start to engage in multimedia activity and experiences using their handheld devices. Now, 3G very quickly evolved into 4G, where users started to have improved data transfer rates. There was better streaming, high quality videos, online gaming, and of course, a lot of mobile applications became relevant in that particular era. Now, also in the 4G era, we actually enjoy the benefits of broadband. And what 5G has now done is to rise above that and provide for a transformative era of innovation, which we believe and we have experienced to come with unparalleled speeds, very low latency compared to the 4G and 3G technologies, and of course, massive device connectivity. The journey has been quite quick and it has been quite revolutionary. And as we all know, I mean, some years back, we wouldn't have been able to have experiences such as the one we are currently having without the presence of technologies like the 3G, the 4G, and finally the 5G. So when we look at what 5G means to the everyday person, it means better speeds, it means lower latency, it means more capacity. And what exactly does that do for you? That is the conversation that we're going to be having in the course of today. So we will try to look at some of these specific touchable use cases that we can actually derive from the technology itself. Talk about the ability of 5G to provide for experiences that are different from what we've had. It talks about being able to utilize technology, because we all have to understand that technology is just an enabler, but the ability to utilize technology to then drive use cases, both for consumers, the enterprise, and for the government, is what makes the difference. And that is what 5G brings to the table. Next slide, please. Now, for us at MTN, we pride ourselves in driving, and providing leading digital solutions for Africa. And we try to do this across our 19 markets where we are present in Africa. One of the key strategic priorities for us is to continue to provide leading connectivity operations in all our markets. Now, that presupposes that we try to put ourselves very much in front of the technology conversations. So we were actually the first organization, telco, to trial the 5G in 2019. This trial was carried out in Lagos and Abuja and a couple of other cities in Nigeria. Subsequent to that, we did take part in the NCC auction, which took place in December 2021. And then we moved on to actually acquiring the license in February 2022. This for us was, quite major. Again, very much in alignment with our belief, which is to make sure that our customers are, have the benefits of the modern connected life. So for us, acquiring the license to be able to deploy the 5G technology had to happen. And so we went ahead to make full payment for the license, and we launched the service in August 2022. We launched with a test in 7 cities: Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, Kano, Owerri, and Maiduguri, ensuring that we covered locations across the 6 major geopolitical zones in the country. We eventually went on to launch the services in September, and as of today, we do have over 800 sites cutting across 13 cities in the country. Now, the provision of this service, like I earlier mentioned, is to ensure that we provide our users with the benefits of a modern connected life and the things that they can actually achieve on super fast, super reliable, and low latency connectivity. Next slide, please. And so we will just touch on, very high level, the different use cases that abound when we speak about the 5G technology. Recall that we've spoken about how the key technological differentiators lie in the lower latency, very low latency. What does this mean? This means that you're able to do the things you do without as much, usually sometimes you would try to connect to a broadband service and you would have bufferings, or you would have a slow, download of a file. But in the case of the 5G service, it enables you to download your files faster. It is actually 100 times faster than the 4G technology. In addition to that, it allows for the connection of more devices. These devices help you to provide services such as machine-to-machine connectivity, IoT services, and of course, advanced automation and use cases, including private networks. So this is what 5G brings to the table. And some of the use cases would include, Deborah, if you could just click to complete the slide, please. Yeah, so we've spoken about the speed, we've spoken about the connectivity, we've spoken about what it can do for you. Please go ahead. And so when we talk about the use cases, some of the very common ones are the smart homes, the 5G service, the level of speed allows you to be able to actually have experience smart homes. In addition, it also allows you to have experiences that speak to the virtual reality and augmented reality. This allows you to have real-time, high-quality streaming and rendering of virtual environments, enabling applications such as remote training, gaming, and virtual tourism. Recently, we started a campaign where we are actually driving for some level of, virtual environments through the use of the holograms. That campaign is still running. We've had some sessions, and just last weekend, we did have one in Kano, where we had artists performing virtually, but being experienced by a group of people, an audience in another location. So these are some of the things that 5G does bring to the table. And of course, it will provide for the revolution of the entertainment industry through, of course, the immersive experiences. You now can actually have those virtual concerts powered by holograms, the instant streaming of videos, and of course, personalized content delivery based on your preferences. When we think about some of the industries that 5G can enable, we think about education, we think about healthcare, we think about agriculture, we think about manufacturing. So when you across the different verticals, there is a use case for 5G. And what it focuses on is ensuring that it allows you to gather data, measure data, and of course, monitor and provide for decision making in real time. So this is one of the key advantages of the 5G technology. And I would like to stop here. Ms. Renu, be guided by you in terms of how we take this forward. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I hope we can all hear me. Thank you very much for your presentation, clarifying the definition of the various generations. In fact, I remember the 1G when we used to have those block telephones, and it's just amazing how life and time has moved forward from 1G to 5G, and within a very swift, short space of time. Very revolutionary technology indeed. And I think the pace continues to grow very quickly. I mean, it's also remarkable to note that you have 800 sites, in 13 cities within 7 states, and more to roll. I mean, so well done to you guys at MTN for setting the pace. Let me, without much ado, sort of go into our fireside chat and sort of kick off with, we all talk about the next generation, and I would refer to some of the points you have shared with us in your presentation. So as we relate, how relevant, for example, will 5G be to the next generation, given the unique features that you have described? So I mean, I've read various things the technology. And you've also demonstrated by talking about the use for machine learning, AI benefiting from it. But I want you to sort of expand a little bit more about its relevance to the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions of relevance. 5G is going to be very relevant, not just to individuals or consumers, but to industries. When we think about some of the things that we are doing across our different businesses, where we're trying to digitize our processes and, probably even go through a full hog digital transformation process, we then start to think about, the Internet of Things and how you can have devices interacting. You have a situation where 5G is able to enable more devices to be connected at the same time to ensure that, again, we are striving for real-time information gathering. I think that, in today's world, information is key. Decision-making needs to be as effective and as prompt and as quick as possible. And to enable effective decision-making, you data. And what could be more important than having the ability to receive, consume, and quickly analyze data in real time? This is one of the advantages that 5G brings to the table. So it needs decision making, and this affects different areas of the economy. So you have industries and you have verticals beginning to become more effective, utilizing technology to drive their decision making, to drive their efficiencies. And at the end of the day, what you do then have is an empowered economy. And when you talk about having an empowered economy, it then speaks to the growth in financial terms and economic terms of that economy. So it is something that is really going to play a large role in helping us to galvanize the economy and provide for jobs, yes, especially in the areas of provision of jobs, provision of opportunities, provision of the ability to automate our processes.
Okay, thanks. I'm just going to pick up on that point, and I will come back to the conversation around augmented reality, around virtual reality, in as much as it takes the next generation. But I want to sort of pick up on the comment you made about jobs, because the former Minister of Communications sometime earlier this year, and he's talked about the deployment of 5G network in Nigeria will bring to be about 3.6 to 4.8 million jobs being created over the next 10 years. Just sort of, based on your views, how do you think that will happen? And do you actually believe that is the case?
First of all, I'll say I believe it. I believe it because, yes, I do believe it because you see, opportunities are created when there is enablement, and 5G is a real enabler. And fortunately for us, it does enable the digital ecosystem. So when we look at what 5G can bring to the table, again, because of its ability, the capacity it provides for, and the ability to have multiple connected devices at the same time, you're going to see advancements in different areas, right? Starting from the government itself. So you're going to have situations where you have smart cities, you have digital campuses, because the governments are so aware that they do require data, they do require the ability to have real-time information and data to analyze and govern even more effectively. Also, so you have a healthcare sector that will get influenced. Today, a lot of things are done, manually, locally, but what you would have is a situation where that saying that the world is a global village actually starts to be brought to life and be brought home, for each and every economy, depending on the different use cases that find expression within that economy. So you have levels of industrial automation. Even agriculture, when we think about the process we go through today in terms of, the agricultural value chain. There is a lot of efficiency that can be brought into the process when you do have automation, when you do have access to data, when you're able to effectively gather data from a source, utilizing different devices as applicable, and then being able to synthesize that data and provide for, again, quick decision making. Because quick decision end of it all, and it's for advancements and allows for effective efficiency in the things that people do or in the different verticals. At the end of the day, what would then happen is you would see a situation where there are opportunities that are being presented, because of the fact that businesses would actually start to utilize these data-driven solutions. It will lead to more productivity, more efficiency, and provide for the ability to have more competitiveness in different industries. I think also there's an opportunity for new industries to spring up. We would have people who probably now start to specialize in areas that erstwhile were seen as impossible because they required a certain level of broadband efficiency to be successful. But you see those in application design, software development, and many more. So for us in Nigeria, the rollout of 5G is really very welcomed. It's going to make us more attractive to foreign investors who are looking, to take advantage of our population, the large population that is in Nigeria, and of course, the fact that it's a growing economy. And then when you think about the fact that Nigeria is a very youthful economy, you start to think about the types of use cases that would then be generated by the general Nigerian youthful segment and what they can bring to the table. So at MTN, we believe that it's really important that in driving our journey into 5G, we stay connected to our larger ecosystem and partnerships because we believe in creating shared value. And so we're working very closely with the NCC and of course the Federal Ministry of Communications and the digital economy to ensure that as a country, we benefit from the deployment of the 5G technology.
Okay, that's very helpful and quite detailed, and I'm sure for our listeners and our audience, they're beginning to pick up some of the areas they can key into. I think it's very important that in this conversation today, the mindsets begin to sort of get enlarged in terms of where can we play, how can we play, what are the opportunities that we can sort of pick up as we go through the conversation. Let me talk about data analytics, because you've obviously continue to reiterate the fact that data is is key. It's king, in fact, the conversation, it's going to be the of the future as we understand it, particularly from decision making, the digitization that we're going through. I recall during the period of COVID, many organizations only survived through the skin of their teeth because they had imbibed digitization, financial institutions, in particular. But just drawing it back to something you talked about in terms of your interface, your connections with the government, I would assume that MTN has begun to build some data and are beginning to analyze data around the impact of 5G on the country's GDP, on our economic growth, and perhaps our stability to a degree. Perhaps you can sort of educate us with what has been done in that region. And you may use a state government as an example, but I'd like some real test cases to demonstrate that.
So when we speak about, and thank you for the question. So when we speak about, contributions to GDP, I would like to think that the ability to effectively evaluate and measure that would be from the government's perspective and its parastatals. So that would come from that angle. But what I can say from the perspective of a telco, who actually does play in both the consumer, the SME, and the large business segments, is there, of course, has been quite a bit of efficiency that has been introduced across the different sub-segments. Now, if I speak specifically to the SME segment, as we all know, Nigeria, the Nigerian SME, which are almost 40 million, do make up for almost 50% of our nation's GDP. And for that to be continued and for them to continue to grow and contribute effectively to the GDP, there has to be an enabling environment. One of the key challenges that SMEs face is the access to markets and access to technology. This is an opportunity that can be bridged with the 5G technology. This allows for SMEs who we have identified as critical drivers of our economy and the GDP. It allows for them to have opportunities to access markets without having to go through the logistical problems, the physical, having the physical presence and physical stores and all of that. It also gives them the opportunity to drive their businesses more effectively. Recently, there's been quite a bit that has been done in terms of enabling financial inclusion with the launch of the mobile money services, of which, of course, MTN is a critical player in that space. So there's a lot going on to enable the economy, to sort of get to a point where there's ease in doing business. Now, ultimately, when you have this ease of doing business and you have a situation where the SMEs in the economy are actually thriving and growing, and opportunities are being created for new businesses to also come into the SME space, you will definitely have more contributions from that subsegment to the GDP. And of course, you would also have, when we talked about how, when you look at what 5G can do for the healthcare and education and manufacturing sectors, as well as for the government, it also provides for efficiency. And once you have an efficiently running sector of it, what you do have is a growth. Ultimately, it all rides up to a growth in the economy. Now, in terms of whether this, the value to the GDP is can be seen at this point or has been measured. Again, I would leave that to the experts in assessing that. And I do believe that when we do have a review of the economy for the year, we will see the impact that has been created by the 5G service. And so that's the way I would like to look at that. Thanks.
Excellent, and thanks very much for that. And I think, if we're real, we really need to begin to hold our government, hold ourselves, as industry players accountable for driving and ensuring success of what we, effectively have on paper now, translating into real benefits to SMEs, to corporates, and to even to individual users. So you've talked about mobile money as a great example, and I think it's a spin. If we think about the recent issues around monetization, everyone sort of dropped back into the use of the facility, and thankfully the mobiles sort of came to our rescue to a degree. So I'm going to, as you speak, I'd be very grateful that we have some real test cases that you can demonstrate if you can, because I'm just conscious that I would like our listeners to be able to, through that, their thought processes will be expanded. So I know you mentioned an enabling environment. But we also recognize the environment in which we all participate and play. We know it's a struggling environment, for want of a better word. And I can sort of imagine some of the challenges from logistics to road networks to building masts, etc. So but perhaps share some of the challenges you faced or you anticipate in the full implementation of 5G technology in Nigeria. I mean, and when I say full implementation, I'm not sure that we have begun to optimize the real benefits. So you had talked about smart homes. When can we see smart cities, for example, with the use of 5G? You talked about the healthcare sector. I imagine we have, at the moment, we have operations, physical operations. The use of 5G technology start to look at more smart keyhole surgery and that sort of technology-enabled healthcare service. We talked about the education system. During COVID, we spent a lot of our children spent time at home and worked through virtual meets. So what's the next step into virtual learning? So you've talked about the government using data. So I just want us to sort of break it down a little bit in terms of we're struggling with our infrastructure, but what can we do to get the optimal benefits of 5G? Long question.
It is. But 5G is a topic that I love to talk about. I guess because I'm right in the center of it. So I never get tired of speaking about the 5G story. So in terms of challenges, I would like to start by pointing out that 5G is just, a technology, right? It does come with its own nuances, but it's still the same environment where we have deployed 3G and 4G. So this is just an advancement on 3G and 4G. And to be honest, broadband penetration in Nigeria is growing. The federal government had a national broadband plan, which actually does terminate, I think, in 2025, where there is an expected level of broadband penetration that should be applicable to urban and rural areas, inclusive of the expected levels of speed. And I think one of the things that the 5G technology complemented by 4G is doing is to work very closely with the government to achieving that objective. And I think we're making some significant progress. However, like any environment, we do have some challenges. There's a lot of vandalism that goes on, vandalism of infrastructure. I mean, according to NCC's data, it shows that over 50,000 telecom infrastructure has been destroyed in over 5 years. So that the telecom industry is a very, investment-heavy industry. So when you think about the costs, of trying to even procure the spectrum, right? It's significant, but we were fine with it because, like I did say in my opening, it is very much in line with our purpose as an organization. So we step away from thinking about the cost, but instead we think about the possibilities that it enables, and that is what has been our driving force. So it is a very huge investment to make, which is why you do have the staggered, rollouts and deployments. That is to speak to how very capital intensive it is. We also have situations where, there was that whole discussion around 5G versus COVID and, what it does bring to the table and, whether there's actually an effect from a health perspective of having 5G in the environment. So you have that education that needs to happen. And then when you come even lower to it, you talk about the availability of terminals that are 5G enabled, when the devices, the smartphones, the home modems, and all of that. So the ability to have those terminals easily available and affordable by the markets is also a major challenge. So it's something that we continue to work on. We continue to work intensively in-house, and of course in partnership with our other ecosystem players, to see how we can ensure that there are 5G enabled devices available, for the markets, so that people and industries can actually find it easy to start to enjoy the services or the benefits that 5G brings to the table.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Yeah, I mean, thanks for weaving in some of that. But I'm hoping that some questions will come on the Q&A. So can I implore our audience? I've seen 7 questions posted already. We will take those questions. But I want to move the conversation to a different level. And thanks for where we've gotten through so far. I hope you've got your coffee ready, and because we're on a roller for this afternoon. I've got my water with me, so please let's replenish ourselves. We're only human. But while you're doing that, thank you. And I hope that's a nice MTN cup that we're enjoying.
Now, it's not just MTN, it's also a 5G mug.
Oh, well, so if it's a 5G mug, you remember when we started the conversation, I said to you, ideally, my world, because I absolutely love innovation and technology, I would have loved to have this in an augmented reality session. I would have loved a session where we're all immersed in technology with your holograms, and we all pot our audiences. So you've got your next task lined up for us.
We will definitely take that up.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I've got 103 participants already, so I'm sure they're all picking up quite a few tips for their businesses in terms of moving forward. But let's change the conversation and tone to some of the real challenges we have in society today: cybersecurity and cybercrime. As I usually tell my colleagues, it's not when, it's not if, but when it will happen. Because we all know that we're exposed to these things. You've talked about vandalism as one of the challenges you face. But the biggest, and I think one of the biggest challenges we all face in the world today is cybercrime. So what are your thoughts around the potential security risks associated with this, particularly as we talk about 5G technology?
Okay, again, when we talk about 5G, we immediately think about speed. We think about the low latency. We think about the capacity, what it can enable almost immediately. And when you look at that, I mean, it's only fair that there would be some concerns in terms of how much time it would then take to get a cybercrime, by hackers or whoever is out there. But what we have to understand is that the presence of cybercrime, right, has to do more with the systems, the systems, the IT systems that are being utilized by a particular organization or industry or a person. And so it's not as if 5G on its own has a role to play in providing for that risk. It probably makes the risk more obvious, but then just as we have cyber crimes occurring, I do believe that in the same vein, organizations have become very acute and alert to it, and you do have an extreme focus on cyber security by different organizations and different industries. And the reason for this, of course, is because the availability of broadband, right, 4G, 5G, allows these crimes to happen. Therefore, it has become a front burner. I do know a lot of organizations that today are taking out time to specifically focus on how to ensure their environments are safe, cyber security applications in place and systems in place, and even the right cyber security frameworks. So, like I started out saying, the use of 5G, I mean, on its own, it doesn't constitute a risk. However, it's very important that we are aware of what broadband levels of speed can provide for, and also make sure that we put our businesses, and safeguard our businesses in such a way that we're able to deal with each of these crimes as and if they do occur.
Right. And I'm hoping that as you collaborate with organizations and you develop these products, there will be greater awareness in terms of how we actually mitigate against the risks of cybercrime, because as we said, it's real. Let me move to something. I mean, I'm sure when we chatted, I talked to you about my world and my interests in technology. A few years ago, I was discussing with a client, with my team, and we said, I'd like to, as we move away from buildings and from infrastructure, I'd like a situation where our clients actually geared up and they're sat in their homes with their headphones on. Through augmented reality, we access their records and we can work with them, and they don't necessarily need to come into our office space or our buildings to conduct business. Are we there?
Well, it's a journey, but we will get there. I'm
when
not
will
sure.
we get there?
It's you and I, we all need to, put the effort in to take us where we need to go to. But we do have, there's huge potential. I recall some years back, maybe like 2019, 2018, we didn't have 5G available in Africa as a continent. Finally, in 2020, South Africa did launch their 5G service, and they've had it up to this time. Now, because of the journey that they've gone on, they've begun to have different use cases that have been expressed, particularly in their mining industry, right? So when you look at MTN in South Africa, there's a lot of work that is being done with the mining ecosystem to ensure that there's automation, there's digitalization, and of course, they are driving efficiency. It's been quite a very useful case that has been put forward. Now in Nigeria, coming home, we again very glad to have been the very first organization, telco, to have flagged off the 5G service. But in doing that, we also have to look at the environment and ensure that the environment is such that provides for the expression of these multiple use cases that we spoke about. I think the journey for consumers is we're closer. When you talk about augmented reality, you think about the device that Apple just spoke about a couple of weeks back, which they plan to launch early next year. And what does that do? That provides for what you spoke about. It allows you, to be able to interact and do the things you want to do from the comfort of wherever. And that is a consumer use case. And that's something that, is there, it's here, it's you. It's up to you. If you do have the 5G service, either on your mobile or more importantly, in your home, it allows you to express all this, making your home, it's actually available right now in Nigeria, because we do have a couple of ecosystem partners that we work with to ensure that we provide these types of services to individuals and homes that have requested for it. Now, looking at the enterprise use cases, those, require a bit more structuring. When you talk about, for example, automating industries, you have to first of all start by even, aggregating your data and, digitalizing your process. Then you start talking about enjoying the benefits and moving to the next level, where you can actually start to provide for virtual reality or augmented reality cases within your particular industry. To us is the availability of private networks, which of course in an oil and available in the Nigerian market. So the use cases, they are there, and we will continue to find use for them as we advance them. Even when we look at the different state governments and the things they've done, I mean, when you look at Lagos State has done quite a bit in terms of moving towards being a data enabled and powered state. There's a lot that has been done in terms of creation and surveillance with the traffic cameras that they've put in place. And, it's a journey that just keeps growing. And there are a couple of, a lot more states that are also waking up to what can be done. Eventually, we'll get to where we start to have smart cities, where we'll have, smart taxation, smart ticketing, and the likes. And even smart primary healthcare delivery. That would also be something that is here, and our job as telcos is to continue to work with the government, with industries, and with consumers to find those expressive use cases that would help them and change the day-to-day experiences that we all have.
We have 106 participants, and I'm sure of that there will be quite a few consumer use cases that we can actually test. And I think more than anything, a proof of concept of any business that we can bring forward. So thank you for that. I think it's important to recognize that anything you can think about, we can do with the aid of technology and with the aid of 5G. And the future pretty much is now. So I was waiting and listening very keenly whether you would say it's going to happen in December 2023 or in November 2024, but we will have that conversation of to push the boundaries on technology. So I'm going to push the boundaries a bit. You've talked about South Africa and the fact that the mining world there has imbibed 5G and they've sort of taken it to a different level in terms of implementation. And I think what that does for MTN is because of their global connection, there's a template that they can model. In fact, most of those industries, from mining to oil and gas, there are similarities there that we can sort of adopt, we can adapt, and we can utilize in our market. Now, let's talk about my favorite subject. I told you weren't going to get out of it, 6G. And I know for this, but the reality is that we need to think ahead of time. Whilst we're sort of assimilating and digesting 5G, we already know that a number of countries have begun to invest significantly in 6G architecture to connect the world, and it is anticipated that it'll go live by 2030. 2030 is only, 6 years away. And with the way life is moving, we know that this will happen. Will Africa be left out? Will Nigeria be left out or behind?
And honestly, this is my personal view. Africa will not be left out. Nigeria most definitely isn't going to be left out. However, like I mentioned earlier, technology is an enabler. And so what it does is it enables you to do the things you do or the things you wish you could do and do them better. Now, as we continue to progress as an economy, as a people, we will continue to find expression for the things that we love to do. And when that happens, technology advancements will be there to help us find those expressions and those experiences. Let's think about it, right? Some parts of the world was at 3G, but we were fine because that's what we knew. And then as we started to find reasons to want to do more, we then started exploring 2G and then 3G. And when we tried to get to 3G, again, some part of the world moved on and got to 4, So it's about the use cases. I probably have said use cases like 50 times on this call.
I'm used to that.
But it's about what you find to do with technology or what you believe you can do with technology to create the experiences that, enable the growth of economies, the growth of individuals, the growth of businesses. That is what it's all about. Africa and for Nigeria, we only just, embraced 5G. I think if I have my math right, it's probably just about 7-8 months now since we embraced 5G. Right? It's huge benefits that are accruable to 5G. And then we can start to think about, what else is out? Will we get there? The answer is yes. We're a very youthful continent, very youthful. And because we are youthful creative, we're very exploratory, and we are go-getters. So we will always want to be at the forefront of any advancements in technology, but at the right time.
And thank you very much for that response. And it's your personal response, but I think the reality is what it is. I think the fact that we have a generation, a next generation that will push boundaries. I think that's our consolation. I think also we have a generation that will not just believe, but not just believe it, will think it, and anything they think, we hope that they will try and find an expression through technology. So, I mean, I think that's the hope we have, absolutely, that we won't be left. And the reality is that our existing cars will soon be extinct because we will be expected to use automated technology.
You already have self-drive cars.
Sorry?
You already have self-drive cars available.
That's the beginning, but when we start moving to electric cars and all the other types of cars that will require that level of technology, I think that's where we need to be sure that we're not behind the game. But our prayer is that we, even in Africa, will become future leaders in technology. So we're sort of gradually closing out on this, because as we always chat, we start talking and we're still talking for a couple of hours, because I'm personally interested in technology, and I'm sure some of those on our participants will have a similar view. I've seen 9 questions already being posted, so there's a bit for us to go. So let's just sort of get into the softer side of things. So what keeps you excited and motivated in the world of digital technology advancement? Just one thing. And conversely,
honestly, it's the consistent advancement. You wake up today and there's something new. You find new ways of expressing something old. You find new ways to merge, and complement all the new, and then you keep moving forward. So I think technology is one of the fastest moving spaces where changes are almost like yesterday. So that is what that's in, right? And when you find yourself in an environment where you're focused on areas or opportunities that erstwhile were not seen, it's very exciting. When you start to have progress, or you make progress in that particular space, it really is. I remember when we got the very first person connected to a 5G modem for their home. It was really exciting. It was exciting for us, and it was exciting for the customer, because they experienced, very quickly, speeds that they hadn't, imagined were possible in our environment. So that is really exciting.
So you carefully dodged what keeps you awake at night. I noticed, but
what keeps me awake at night? I think it's about what next. What's going to happen next. What would be that new frontier that we need to focus on? I mean, when you pride yourself in, if you say you want to make your customers' lives brighter, that could have different expressions. So it's about making sure that you don't become extinct or obsolete because of the fact that we haven't moved, in terms of the things we do or how we do them. Because at the end of the day, it's about the experiences. And the consuming market today is very savvy. So they know everybody knows what they want. Even as a consumer or as a business, they know what they want. So the ability to always be a step ahead, anticipate what those needs are.
I think you and I do. I mean, I know that I try, and I have children and grandchildren who just, yeah, well, my children are certainly like, mommy, get real with technology. And I'm thinking, but I'm still struggling with this one, and that something new has evolved. And so I think, I hope that we don't become the dinosaurs and they sort of move the pace. But I completely
Honestly,
share your concerns in terms of what keeps me awake at night. And so my final question as we close out this session before we move into the question and answer. One of my favorites is the MTN no be juju na 5G. You guys have to pay me for that, by the way. Indeed, it's a bold and direct fact. I remember when I first sort of saw the advert, I could not believe it that we're at that stage in Nigerian media campaigns, but it's very well done. You know, it connects with the community from my perspective anyway. So what's the story behind that?
first of all, thank you very much. Thank you. That is such positive feedback. I'll be speaking on behalf of the team when we say we really appreciate the feedback. So what was the story? When we were about to launch 5G, recall we talked about how there were so many issues around it. There was the whole thing about COVID, you know, education, weather is healthy, etc., etc. There was just so much going on, and we thought we had to bring it home. You know, we had to make it as real as possible. I mean, it's one thing to talk about smart cities, smart industries, augmented reality, but what does that mean to the average person on the streets? What does it mean to, you know, the everyday person who's just trying to get by and have those experiences that allow them to feel fulfilled? So we said to ourselves, let's talk about, let's, you know, focus on bringing and positioning it as a technology that brings experiences home. Those things or those experiences, those ideas you had that you thought you couldn't do because you didn't have the enabling technology, let us bring it home. Let us make it clear and obvious that you can make the impossible possible. You can actually be here in Nigeria, and you could actually be having, taking a lesson from a professor in America, and you would feel like you were fully immersed in the class. You could actually be trying to engage with your loved ones, and there are ways that you can actually feel your loved one is here with you. You could actually, you've been dreaming about when you could watch that movie and it wouldn't buffer. You would be able to, you know, download it and watch it effectively in high definition. All of that is possible. So what we wanted to bring home is the fact that no be juju, na 5G, and 5G na enabler.
I didn't make that one. My 5G na enabler.
No, that is mine. That is mine.
Oh, that's your adequate.
Yes.
Okay.
It enables your experience.
Brilliant, brilliant. I absolutely love it. And I think that I'm sure there are quite a few people who have connected with that explanation. Great story. And we're looking forward to many more. And particularly as you've got competition now with it.
Oh.
So let's see how that ranks.
Well, as you know,
right.
no, I have to say a word there. You know, we welcome them. It's really very interesting to be able to effectively serve the broadband market in Nigeria. You do require quite a number of players, and so we welcome them. We look forward.
I saw it. I saw your notes to them. I saw the love letter to Airtel.
Yes.
We know it's so small fit to join SG League. We've made everything easy for you. Whoa.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me leave the rest for our audience. So let's move into our Q&As, and I want to thank those who have kept the questions flowing. Thank you for your patience, and I'm sure quite a number of us have learned something new about 5G technology, how we can apply it to our businesses, the swiftness and the technology, the evolution of it, the user case has been spoken about. continue to drop your questions on the Q&A, and we will do our best to pick them all. So, Onye, please do draw a breath, have a glass of water to refresh. We're just moving into the Q&A. So the first question, and what is the latency in milliseconds from your field deployment currently, say in Maiduguri and Owerri? That's reaching above me, but I'm sure you get the message.
5G is a mobile technology, and we speak about the ability for 5G to enable more connected devices than a 4G would per square meter. So in terms of the latency, we would be looking at, over just under 2 milliseconds. And again, it depends on the number of connected devices, the environment, the positioning of the particular user to the sites that are close in that location.
Okay, I hope the person who's asked that question got that information. So the second question, are there health and environmental challenges using the 5G network?
Would say no, there isn't. But then, again, 5G is, an advancement on 4G and 3G and every other technology. So speaking on whether there are specific health challenges to 5G, the answer would be no.
And perhaps I want to add my thoughts to this because it was a real concern, in fact, a global conversation, particularly
There are, not to my knowledge, not specific to 5G. There are, of course, environmental concerns around technology, which telcos like ourselves are very aware of, and we continue to work to ensure that we provide environmentally friendly solutions and offerings into the market. So that speaks generally to technology.
Okay, all right. I mean, I might come back to you on that on that environmental friendliness, because I think it's an area that I'm quite passionate about, making sure we're doing the right thing for the community. So do 5G find a chance where so do 5G find a chance when Starlink, maybe it's the linking of Starlink, looking at speed, latency, and good connectivity. So we all know the Starlink story, or perhaps you want to share the Starlink story. And
well, I would try to speak. Story is of course not our story, but it's as we all know, a satellite service offered by the Starlink group owned by Elon Musk. It is a satellite service, and what that simply speaks to is the fact that even though it is a low orbit satellite service, it does still have a bit of latency challenges. So do we see 5G standing a chance? Of course, yes. So this is, what are we trying to achieve? So let's look at the objective. The objective is to achieve broadband penetration, right? And ensure that a large percentage of the population, about 95% or 90% of the population, is covered with broadband. That we are going to have to explore multiple technologies. It can be done only by 5G or 4G or 3G. We have to have a mix of technologies to complement each other to be able to achieve the total expected spread as defined by the federal government. So does 5G stand a chance? The answer is yes. And it will continue to stand a chance against any other technology that does come into play because they all do complement each other.
Okay. All right, that's helpful. But I guess the inquiry was really in comparison to speed, latency, and good connectivity.
Oh yes. So I did start out with that. It does stand a chance, and in fact, it provides for better speeds. better latency, and expanded capable connectivity.
Okay, thanks. Specific to healthcare, is MTN doing to promote 5G adoption? So remember, we talked about healthcare, and in my layman, I talked about surgery and keyhole surgery. So perhaps here's the opportunity to perhaps expand a little bit around that.
Okay, I'll start by saying that, you know, MTN is a telco, is a telecommunications organization in the process of transiting fully into a technology company. We do not have an expertise in healthcare. However, what is to work with the relevant healthcare ecosystem partners to continue to find those specific use cases and platforms that we can express the benefits that 5G can provide.
Okay, and that's the fair answer. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, if you have an idea and you're in the healthcare industry, I advise that you please link up with MTN and explore
Absolutely.
how that can be taken to the next level.
Absolutely.
It's about innovation and technology. I was going to say something, I remembered I was live, so I had to caution myself. Will 5G not displace employment as a need for human input? How then do we marry this development, particularly in Nigeria, where unemployment is seen to be on the rise? Technology and displacement of the human input.
It's I think the jury is still out on that one, if you ask me. But when you have efficiencies or automation being brought into a particular environment, it creates new opportunities. So what would be more relevant would be to make sure that that you do have the skills that are required to be successful in a technologically dynamic environment. Individuals, organizations are working towards in terms of their human capital and capacity building to ensure that the skills that are adopted are skills that are relevant, you know, to digitally inclined a digitally inclined world. So would it displace jobs? I would say not. It would create new opportunities, and it would present opportunities that may actually speak to better efficiencies than what we have now.
And I completely agree with you. I mean, we're all having to reskill. The old jobs have gone away, you know, and it will push the thinking, the thought process, the ideation, and that will then sort of influence where and how we're educated, or we begin to unlearn to create, to be able to respond to that. So have no fear, just continue to upskill, reskill, and unlearn new things so that we can get moving. I think there is space for everyone to be fully. I completely agree with you, provided you have the right skills. So how does MTN plan to ensure widespread coverage and accessibility of 5G, particularly in rural and underserved areas?
Okay, so I did mention that investments into 5G is quite extensive. So what we are doing is to continually progress and expand on our areas of coverage. When we did start out in August last year, we had less than 200 sites up and running. Today we have over 800 sites, and every day we keep building. So there's a plan to make sure that as much as possible we do effectively cover. But don't forget that we also will complement this with our 4G technology to ensure that ultimately there is broadband penetration achieved in most rural and urban areas in the country.
It's a question aligned to that one. What is the plan to ramp up nationwide coverage? So, I mean, it's great from 300 to 800, but when will it be 100% nationwide coverage? I'm only reading the question, but
well, I think I've probably spoken to that. We will continue to expand on our current coverage, and it's a journey that we are currently undertaking and will continue to progress on.
Okay, thank you. So the next question, during the discuss on cybercrime, you made mention of the availability of broadband, such as the introduction of 4G, 5G, and the rest allow for cybercrime to happen. I wasn't sure that we talked about that, but maybe you can remind us. I mean, I know we talked about cybercrime and cybersecurity. And we know that, you explained that there were steps being put in place, working with your partners, with your clients, and with your customers to ensure that they had protection against cybersecurity. But maybe respond to that as you recall.
Okay, so I think that speak about cybercrime. Cyber on its own, speaks to the web, the internet. So cyber crimes became possible when we started to have access to mobile internet, which of course started in the 3G era. Now, it's not specific to 4G or 5G. It is something, is a type of crime that happens via the web, powered by the internet. So it's identify and be here as a people, as as a community, as industries, as government, as we've identified the availability or the prevalence of cyber crimes. A lot of effort has been put in by organizations, by countries, by people to safeguard information that is critical to them. And that is why you have a focus on cyber security. And it's something that most organizations today, when they show their cloud or design their cloud strategy, they pay a very strong attention to cyber security to ensure that their information is protected and their intellect also protected. So what could be the solution? The solution is to be very alert, to understand that these things happen and they are a product of an advancement. Whenever you have good, there's always sometimes the negative expression to it. And cybercrime is one of the negative expressions that have come through from our ability to have advanced broadband technologies. So in terms of how you can pay attention to cyber security applications and systems that you can put in place to ensure that your data, the information you have as an organization, is totally encrypted and safe within your environment.
Fantastic. I mean, and I think that's the real message. Really, the onus lies on the consumer to ensure there's sufficient protection to minimize the impact. So what's the worst case of latency in milliseconds that can happen in your field deployment with the worst?
Okay, that is a broad, neither here nor there. Because it all depends on the different types of environments and the factors that come into play. We do work within the 2 milliseconds latency range, but of course it depends. It depends. I'm not so certain I can categorically state and say this is what it could be.
Okay, brilliant. I mean, I think that's the reality. Swiftly on with the questions, because I think we will soon run out of time. And I'm sure our audiences are enjoying it because I can see the questions are ramping through as we go along. But they're very, very insightful. So I think we need to do justice to them. So thank you for those who have shared them so far. So are you able to employ the full 5G features or is it a gradual upgrade of suites and services?
Remember, we are the enabler. So we work with different industries, different consumers to employ the use cases that they want to bring to the ecosystem play. So for example, assuming you want to, develop a smart home, we do have different partners that come in to work with, that we would work with to ensure that we effectively deploy home for you. But what we do bring to the table is the effectiveness, the speed, the latency, and the capacity that is available with a true 5G service.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. So the next question I'm going to ask, I suspect the participant may have come in late because you talked about it at the beginning, but I would still like us to give a very quick high-level summary. Can you explain the key technological advancement and features of MTN's 5G network that differentiates it from the capabilities of 4G?
Okay, so the 5G network or technology is, as of today, the most advanced of mobile technology networks that is available. It allows you to do quite a lot from a networking perspective in terms of network slicing. It allows you to also infrastructure effectively. It allows for the use of the millimeter wave. So there's a lot that you can do in terms of automation, in terms of providing for flexibility in how you're able to slice and dice and utilize your network to your business. In addition to that, the 5G provides for speeds that are up to 2 gigabits per second, and in some cases all the way up to 10 gigabits per second, as against the 4G, which is about 100 times less. Speed, the latency, and the capacity, the ability to connect more devices is the key differentiator between the 4G and the 5G technology.
Brilliant. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm sure that that was a good summary of it. We talked about it in detail earlier. So will 5G speed affect data consumption as regards usage? There is a myth that the faster the internet speed, the faster you run out of data.
I think that the answer to that question would be, it depends on what you are utilizing the data for. So, for example, if you're trying to download a file, of course, 5G is going to allow you to download that faster, but it's not going to, I think because of the experience you're having, what then happens is that you utilize, you're enjoying the experience so much that you're utilizing more data as because you're spending more time doing the things that you speed is more, yes. What it allows you to do and the time it allows you to do it is less, yes. But in terms of whether it affects your data consumption, it really is about how and what you utilize the data for.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you've put he or her mind to rest. And I think, we need to draw this to an end. I'm sure many more questions will keep coming, but I had said at the onset that with responses on the NBCC website. So please watch the space. So here comes my final and last question. What schemes are available for SMEs to partner with MTN in the 5G journey?
We do have the SMEs for us are very critical segments in the Nigerian economy, and we pride ourselves in being partners for their growth. So there's a lot we are doing. I think even tomorrow we do have an SME fair, which we're running, as one of the programs that we've put in place to help our SME community. So we do have a lot of schemes, a lot of programs that we run with the SME community, both in terms of education, engagements, and as well, we have specific solutions that we provide to SMEs that are targeted towards helping them deal with some of the challenges they have, specifically access to market. The recent launch of our Momo, our Momo PSB, we also have packages that are available that help SMEs start to, build and grow their businesses, riding a small, financial models that would help them to get to where they need to get to. So we are constantly co-developing solutions with SMEs, working with our ecosystem partners to come up with solutions and applications that will help SMEs achieve the cost effectiveness that they desire to drive their businesses to success.
Excellent. We could go on and on and on and on and on. And I think the day job and so audience, I am sure you will agree with me. Today has been interesting, informative, and as I said earlier on, impactful. I would, the formal appreciations will be made, but I've enjoyed your masterly delivery, Onyinye. I've enjoyed the conversation and your openness, the transparency of the conversation. And I've enjoyed the message and the learning of 5G, better educated for it. So thank you very much for that. And on behalf of the British Chamber of Commerce, Nigerian Chamber of Commerce, thank you for MTN, and thank you to you for your time. I'm going to pass you over to my colleague on the Exco, Mr. Charles Ejekam. Charles, I hope you're ready to give the vote of thanks. Thank you again, Oye, and thank you to our audience.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Fantastic morning, and I'm sure that we have taken a lot of learnings and insights from our guest speaker. My name is, I'm the chairman of the Export and Trade Group of the NBCC. And on behalf of the chamber, I want to express a special appreciation and thank our guest speaker, in the person of Mrs. Olivia Ikenna Emeka. Madam, you have been wonderful. You have been exceptional, and I found you very exciting. And I find you personally quite knowledgeable in when it comes to the issues around technology and the 5G. I want to equally express our appreciation to the moderator, our very enlightened moderator in the person of Ms. Anne Winu. And you've made the session very interesting and quite engaging. Thank you for your time, and thank you for helping us make this an exciting morning for us. And to all participants, the Advocacy Committee of the NBCC and the NBCC headquarters and the staffers at the back end who helped to put all this together. We say a big thank you to you all. And just before I leave, I will want to take a few minutes of your share some of the upcoming events of the chambers. Number one is that NBCC members evening and business cocktail, which is scheduled for Thursday, June 22nd, 2023 at Ikoyi here in Lagos. Participation is free for members and open to non-members at a fee of 10,000 naira per person. Two, the MSME conference, themed Innovative Solutions for Sustainable Business Practice, is scheduled to hold Tuesday, June 27, 2023 at the NBCC headquarters. Participation is equally free for members and open to non-members at a fee of 7,000 naira. Exhibition slots are available for only 20,000 naira. Three, our state-of-the-art facilities open and available at affordable rates. please, we encourage as a non-members to take advantage of the exotic facility that is available and well situated on the island. For your corporate events, training, seminar, and meetings, visit us today to make bookings or reservations. 4, we would love to hear your feedback because we strive on feedback. Please do not hesitate to get back to us. You could also follow the link or scan the barcode that you are seeing on the screen to fill out the feedback form. It's important we do that because we leverage on feedback to make us stronger. 5, if you're interested in becoming a member of the chamber, please visit our website at www.nbcc.org.ng. I say it again, www.nbcc.org.ng, or contact the membership team via email at I think that is what is being shared on the screen, daniel.aino@nbcc.org.ng, or ejirogene.kajoh@nbcc.org.ng. Finally, you could also follow us on our social media platforms and be well informed of our activities. You can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and on YouTube. And we have our number displayed clearly for us to see. I want to express on behalf of the council, president, and every member that joined us, I want to express our appreciation for your attention, and God bless us. Thank you very much. Over to you.